Welcome to Fool's Key Tarot. I'm Ben, and this is a daily reading for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. Let's see what the cards have in store for us. First, the Emperor, Major Arcana number 4. This card has to do with logic and reason and natural law, like gravity. Next, we have the Knight of Swords. This can indicate a person who is rushing forward ahead without regard for their own safety, or maybe even for the safety of others. Definitely could be brash, possibly rude, but also just having strong convictions, knowing what you want and going out and fighting for it. Finally, the Five of Wands, which can also indicate a fight. In this case, usually more of a small or petty argument among friends or colleagues. This can be like a scrimmage between teammates where there is a conflict and fight, but it's in preparation for a more important or significant fight later on against the real enemy. And this is just sort of practice or a smaller scale version. So with the Knight of Swords, which can also be a card of conflict, immediately I see a connection between these two. And that makes me think that there is somebody today who is going to rush forward without care, and maybe accidentally or maybe with some knowledge of what they're doing, they are going to anger or frustrate other people who are on their team or who they're not necessarily enemies with, but they may not be friends. It might be more of a neutral acquaintance. But this person is going to charge ahead, say or do something that they strongly believe in, but it's going to bother other people. It's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to make people mad a little bit. And this is probably not going to lead to a conflict that is an extreme fight between two people who are on opposite sides. This is not a good versus evil situation or somebody fighting against their bitter rival or their greatest enemy. Instead, this might be a team where one member goes off on their own and tries to impose their vision on everybody else, and maybe the other people who they're supposed to get along with aren't so happy about this. This leads to argumentation and infighting. I think there's one person who is the main source of this group conflict, and this person is coming at the situation in good faith. They really believe in what they're saying. They're not trying to stir the pot just to stir the pot. They're not trying to make people angry just because it's fun for them or because they have no regard for their feelings. They really believe in what they're saying and doing, and they either didn't realize how much it would bother other people, or if they did realize that, they thought it's worth it because they believe so strongly in what they are saying or doing that if other people get upset by it, then from their point of view, so be it. That's going to be a reaction, and it needs to be said or done, and if that's the price, then I'll pay it. So you could be the Knight of Swords here, who's expressing this opinion or doing this thing that rocks the boat. You also might just be in the boat, and it's being rocked by somebody else. So the Emperor over here is a major arcana, so brings a little bit of a heavier feeling to the reading. This might relate to an overarching theme or a broader arc that this all is a part of. So the Emperor can be a ruler or a king. So it might be that the leader of this group is not putting their foot down to either tell this person who's kind of shaking things up to stop, and but they're also not weighing in on behalf of that person and telling everybody else to deal with them. I think this leader, the way that they're kind of off to the left, and it's disconnected from these two cards in the sense that these cards are about conflict and change and shifting things up, and the Emperor doesn't like change. The Emperor is solid and stable. Its number is 4. This is a number that is unchanging. It does not make compromises. It does not allow for instability in any form. And so I think that the Emperor of this group, whoever's in charge, whether that's a single person or maybe just a few of the members who are more on top, who tend to deal with these issues, for whatever reason, they have taken a step back and are letting this fight play out. I think the most likely explanation would be that they don't know who's right, whether it's this newcomer Not necessarily that they're new to the group, but they're putting forward some new idea or some new notion. If everyone else is reacting negatively to it, or at least is confused over it and not responding positively and accepting this new idea, I think the leadership is not sure which way to go, and so they're letting it play out naturally. They're waiting to see how the chips fall and which direction the group goes before they lay down the law and say, okay, this is the way forward, stop your fighting. I am telling the group now what is happening. Whoever has that power, they are either absent or they're choosing not to exercise that power. And so in that vacuum, there is a lot of room for change, for shifting perspectives, shifting priorities, maybe a new approach to an old problem. If the cards are giving you guidance for this situation, I think what they're telling you is if the leader has taken a step back, do not be frustrated or worried about that. They're doing it on purpose. They're trying to give space for this conflict to play out. So whether you're the Knight of Swords or you're reacting to the Knight of Swords, do not look to the leader right now to be the one to give the solid resolution to this question. They know what they're doing, and whether you're the Knight of Swords or part of the group, or even if you're the leader, then the cards are telling you to let the process play out naturally. Do not try to end the conflict just for the sake of having the conflict be over with. It's better to let the group go through some difficulty and then come to the best possible resolution, rather than ending the conflict prematurely just because you're afraid of some ruffled feathers or afraid of what happens when people get a little too excited or angry. If that is something that you try to avoid and therefore you tamp down on the conflict before it's played out, well then not all the cards have been put on the table, and there may have been a path forward that would have emerged naturally through that conflict, but it could get suppressed if the leader weighs too heavily on the situation and tries to make it end before the process is played out. So in this case, you could be the Knight of Swords, who is the member of the group who's rocking the boat. You could be another member of the group who's not really happy about it. You could also be the leader who's trying to decide what to do as the people beneath you are shifting around and arguing with each other. So depending on who you identify with most, I think there's a very different takeaway from this reading in terms of what you can do. But overall, the cards are saying that these little fights that happen within a group are natural and they should be played out so that whoever's expressing their opinion with the Knight of Swords, even if they're wrong, they might be driving at something that's worth bringing to the surface. And also, they need to have their opinion heard and aired. And then even if you don't go in that direction, that member will feel better because they got to say their piece and express their opinion. So even if they're wrong and you're the leader and you can see that, if you stop them right away before they've really said their piece, well, they're just going to carry that frustration with them forward, and that's going to lead to additional issues. So conflict is natural, especially among friends. It can be uncomfortable to have conflict with friends because you're supposed to get along, but actually that can be some of the most productive type of conflict because ultimately you're going to try to help each other and everybody wants the best possible outcome. You might just disagree about what that outcome is. And it can take time to arrive at that conclusion, but if you let the process play out, then you maximize your chance of coming to the best possible solution. So if you enjoyed this reading, then subscribe to see more. And if you'd like to learn about tarot cards or try some of my online guided readings, then head on over to foolskey.com where you can check that out. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.